And whenever you're ready.
All right, perfect. We call the April 8th Arts Commission meeting to order at 2:01 p.m. Get started with roll call. Matthew Stevens, that's me. I'm here. Lynn.
Here. You suspect here?
Tina.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know, Michaela is called into work. And I apologize if I'm a little short-winded. I'm healing from broken ribs. So,
Oh, no.
bear with me, please.
Stuck on by a horse?
Comparable.
Yeah,
A crowd of people. So,
I know.
but okay, and then on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
You have a flag?
Back there in person.
Perfect.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll check.
Like, do
Okay,
you just have Wi-Fi?
on to approval of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda and
Yeah, I can.
You can.
do I hear a motion? Do we have to get a motion and vote to
Yeah.
approve? Yeah. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Right.
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented?
Aye.
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 All right. Approval of minutes from the last meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look over those? And
No, I'm fine. It's just the laptop's out right now.
if so, do I hear
Everything's up here though.
a motion to approve those?
I'll motion, make a motion.
All right.
I'll second. Meeting minutes is written.
All righty. All in favor of approving the minutes from March 11th? Aye.
Aye.
All right, perfect.
The
And
library. So
public comment. Was there any public comment?
No.
Or anything?
no public comments have been received and no members of the public are currently here.
All right. No presentations, no public hearings, no action items. So on to workshops. Continuing the discussion of the Downtown Revitalization Visioning Exercise.
Do you want the PowerPoint?
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for setting aside the meeting today for discussion of downtown revitalization. Theme that's been discussed over several different meetings is how to provide context to the downtown area. And thank you again for everybody who was able to make it today in person. So we could have a good discussion with the group. And one of the things that we're really having spoken with a couple of different Arts Commission members for is to really kind of identify what the outcomes of today would be. And so I'll just go around really quickly with each person. And if you could, in let's say 7 words, 9 words, can you identify your goal at the end of today for a visioning discussion around downtown revitalization in the terms of art? And so I will have somebody raise their hand first, and so nobody gets put on the spot just because they might be sitting to my right or left. How about that?
I'll go.
Okay, great.
Just that we have a standard to which we can operate by. And obviously have us dovetail in with what the city council wants.
Great, concise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very achievable. Okay. Who wants to go next?
I would say to creatively inspire our current direction. I think we need to enhance what you've done and just have kind of a creative input,
Okay.
advice to help
figure out what that looks like for the community.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, kind of the definitive direction is kind of what I was thinking as well.
Okay, great. Tina?
I think we're all on the same page that, that's what we want to do is I think we're all in agreement what the goal is and I ditto what they both said.
Okay, great. Well, I know that this occurred last fall, but one of the things that when, looking into this more that we thought might be much more helpful was to take the various plans that we shared and just gel it down. Just forward, visual, simple. And it turns out that the art plan already has a really strong vision for the downtown. So if you go to the next slide, this is actually it. So the art plan went through with their community, their public engagement, and they identified these themes for art in the city, and they actually narrowed it down by location and type of facility. So that ranges from tribal all the way down to the business corridor along US 2, and a couple of very specific themes. So we have tribal, agricultural, small town character, aviation, open vistas, West Plains, military, and then the identity of the business areas, and then a little bit around kind of some context. So when we think about the area, they identified native vegetation, indigenous to the area, and these as being elements or intrinsic parts of art that would be included as we move forward with particular projects.
Could you expand a little bit more on that commercial business corridor part?
So this has to do with the identity of the commercial corridor itself. And we actually have a specific section to the downtown that we'll show you.
Okay,
But this is identifying the commercial corridor, which is US 2 through the city.
right.
That we would be looking at a variety of forms in the commercial area, which could be malls, it might be taller buildings as we get into the downtown core, that it included small business, that it would have community events influencing the commercial core of the city.
And then you've got the small town character piece as well. Walkable, taller buildings, that kind of ties in, I think.
This is
North-south.
this is from the public feedback. The north-south connection is the ability to looking across US 2, so north and south of the corridor. And then the elements around the downtown, it's been part of the vision from the art plan and the downtown plan that eventually there might be a civic area that's on the south side of US 2 between Lawson and Lindstrom. So eventually maybe an open area theater or a building that could be used for a variety of artistic endeavors, performing arts theater, something like that. Okay, next. Here are some of the very specific themes that came out is that Airway Heights is a crossroad of culture. And so that idea that you've got history, and that includes the indigenous origins of the progression of aviation industry in the area, the farming that surround it, as well as today in which we're at crossroads of people coming into the Spokane metro area for their shopping, their culture, and their living experiences.
Could you go back one slide just real quick so I could take notes just real quick? Because the small town character part piece is really important. And then because I want to explore that a little bit more. And then I think the commercial business corridor is also another thing I want to look at. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. And certainly we talked a little about the aviation. So not to use a lot of text, the art plan actually goes on, and the downtown plan has pages and pages and pages speaking to this. And so we're just going to go right into the images that represent what we found specific to the downtown in the art plan. Go ahead.
Well, this is how it's generally broken down by location.
So the center one is closer to the central business, would draw inspiration from the influence of aviation, the notion of flight, incorporating kinetic, wind, or vertical elements. So this is repeated throughout the downtown plan. This was the theme that was picked. And I had mentioned to Lisa when she went to the open house that Spokane had done something very similar where each area along the viaduct, each gateway had its own theme. And it turns out our art plan does the same thing. It actually calls out, depending on which end of town, what the theme should be. And here it's calling for aviation. And I want to emphasize that this is not just Fairchild. And there's a number of ways in which they've described it, including some of the historical photos that we found that we're going to show you today. So it'll be a good visual opportunity. Public spaces to the east and west of downtown should have a theme of natural landscape relating to the Columbia Catskill and Channel Scablands. That there should be incorporation of materials with allusions to dry falls, glacial, erratic, which I think is really talking about the jagged and differential formations that are left after the glaciers go through. That we should be looking at materials that are native to the area. So one of the most interesting examples, just even locally over at the Kalispell tribe, is the center area, their median is actually the shape of a canoe because that's a component of the culture for the Kalispell tribe. And this in the center of it, many of the elements represent I just totally lost the word. Is it cat? It's not cattails, Tina. What is the tall
Camas? You're not.
no, it's not camas. It's got
The
the
tulip.
brown
We have Thule reeds.
Thule reeds, but they're also, you have it represented in the art, has the brown head on it that that goes into the seeds. It's kind of velvety brown. Cattail. Okay.
Cattails?
I for some reason I kept that it wasn't
It's like they're screaming at cats.
cattail, yeah. So there's elements of sculpture within the context of that envelope. And so when we look at this description of utilizing native materials, and when we go back to that first slide where it actually describes the native berries and other elements, it's illuminating for us now that these could be elements of art included in the design within the area of Airway Heights. And then public spaces, roundabouts, public right of way or buildings would have distinct character. Now the art plan actually goes on to say specifically that the art elements that are envisioned are sculpture art in the downtown corridor and art in the roundabouts. So the murals are an added element to that as the group has been investigating other ways to do placemaking through the downtown area, but it's a good guide when we think about specifics of what the plan is looking for. Okay, next slide. All right, here we get to the fun part. Zach went through and collected a whole bunch of great visuals through time that represent aviation, since that's the theme that we see repeatedly in the art plan for the downtown. But what could aviation look like in its various forms when we think of contextually around design? So this is actually the airfield being filmed. So it's got, the old cars and the boxy buildings that were part of the former Fairchild. Can you go to the next one?
I think it's Geiger.
This is Geiger. Okay. That's Fairchild. Here's just some posters that have been done through time. But these, when we think of murals, I think could be easily translatable for the side of a building. And we of course had to pull out the Chris Bovey one for everybody to see. His is on the
I thought that was.
on the left.
Actually, the two on the corners are
both
both
of them.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking
Yeah.
The interpretation.
our old friends.
Basically there has been artistic renderings kind of aviation in the past in a variety of forms. I go to the next one.
I don't know why these aren't showing up. Let me try the PDF version. Sorry, we're missing a couple images. You can see where they should be.
I just feel like we gotta be careful with that. Because you're talking about crossroads of culture, and I feel like we're in that transition period.
So the crossroads of culture is for the whole city. The
Mhm.
art plan identifies aviation within the downtown. So the crossroads of culture is a theme
Incorporating.
that goes
Mhm.
potentially in transition areas, and in the downtown plan, transition areas are outside Lawson and Lundstrom, extending out to the east
Right.
and to the west a bit. Now, the art plan calls out art for roundabouts, and then it talks a bit actually about the roundabout over by the Spokane Casino, which is that direction.
Mhm.
There had been early on some art discussion over at Deer Heights, but Deer Heights is partially in the city of Spokane. I'm not sure that that was ever
Oh.
finalized, but we did just get funding. Oh, we just found out 2 weeks ago that we did get funding to actually build a roundabout at US2 in Garfield.
Okay.
And so it kind of thinking about something that came up, I think, at the last meeting, which is what might be opportunities in the future for the Arts Commission, where we're getting real about a construction project and to
Right.
think about the opportunity for art. So Lawson to Lundstrom is still in the design stage. In the downtown, we're still looking for money to pay for that project. But the roundabout at Garfield and US2, we just found out that we got a federal appropriation to build it.
Oh,
And that's the one by Spokane Casino.
It's one by the Kalispell. So it'll be that direction. It's
Okay.
where the McDonald's and the
Okay.
gas station with the teriyaki
Spice,
spice restaurant is. Yeah,
yeah. So that's a signal right now, right?
it's a signal. It'll be turning into a roundabout.
Okay.
So here's one of the images that was not showing up.
So it's a picture of a biplane. Somebody parachuting.
Yeah, so this is one's from I believe the early 80s. So when they were doing one of the air shows out at Fairchild, they were using some of the older planes from World War One. But they were also doing some additional aviation. The idea was, again, the theme of aviation doesn't have to be restricted just to airplanes as well. There's, parachuting and things like that. Other image, this is the one I was trying to show because it was not
one of the
big.
things I always appreciate about Fairchild is the 36 rescue flight, because I lived up in Deer Park for quite a number of years, and they always flew over us to go to the survival camp up at Usk and Cusick, I think it is. So, and that they've been based out of there for I don't know how long. And those helos, some of them are, 1960s and whatever, they rebuild them year after year. And what a wonderful contingent of the base. In fact, when they fly over, a lot of times they wait there. Hey guys, how you doing? Because they're hanging out the window watching everything that's going on below them. And they've been involved in quite a few Pacific Northwest rescues over the years. So I really admire those guys.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I wonder if there's a picture readily available of that.
Mhm.
Look, I mean, there's a ton of images for Fairchild. I was trying to diversify, which is really tough, but like, I mean, yeah, we can look for sure. But yeah, here's
Well,
some
good
more.
job with all the.
I thought the biplane image was really interesting because in the airport in the Alaska Sea Concourse, they have a plane, I believe, a biplane as part of the art down by the luggage.
Yeah, it's like a toaster.
Yeah, that's a flying toaster.
And now I saw it when I was waiting to get picked up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a flying toaster, biplane.
yeah.
kinda
Yeah, so yeah, I think with the vision, have some definition around art and context. There's a lot that somebody can do with that, even with a theme
Mhm.
or an area. Can you go on?
So these are a little bit older. It's the B-23 from Geiger. And then the other one here is actually one of the original advertisements for Spokane International Airport from the 50s. So again, I really want to diversify that. It's not just Fairchild, we're also heavily influenced by Spokane International Airport and commercial airlining as well. So that's aviation's a fun theme because we have so much of it. So yeah.
Yeah, think about it. Every time those bombers fly right over my house.
Yeah. It's in our name, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So this is, and then we get into next steps here after that.
Yeah, let's go back up to the images. Does anybody want to relook at any of these images? Or go back to the first slide with the themes from the art plan? Let's go back to the first page.
So did you guys send that with our packet or not? You didn't? Okay, maybe we could just give that for a separate PDF.
Yeah,
page,
no, we
and
can-
jet that to us when we get a minute, and we can just have that for reference.
Yeah, so this item piece is within the public arts plan, which is on our website. So you can grab that, but I can also send this
Oh,
to you
okay,
guys. as
okay,
well.
haven't seen that before.
There's
Good job.
quite a few pieces about the downtown area and the art plan. This seemed to be one that kind of was overarching, to provide the themes that have been investigated
Mhm, mhm.
around
Oh, this
around
is good.
art.
Really good, very helpful.
Yeah, so then also, yeah, like Heather talked about the spatial aspect. I mean, it gives us direction on where to go, what theme, but having that overall theme of crossroads of culture. I mean, it tells a really good story and it's all based on public feedback. So this wasn't, SCJ or us in a room. It was coming from the people of the city of Airway Heights. This is what they wanted to see.
So just as a little bit of a genesis for that, the reason that the city hired a consultant to develop a public engagement plan and do an art plan was because of the roundabout that were being built at either end of the town, and that people thought it was a great opportunity for art, and suddenly everybody realized that there wasn't any plan there, that the themes hadn't been investigated, that the idea of what could be included as art in the city had not been discussed. So the consultant SCJ Alliance went through a year and a half process and did community engagement, asking people what they felt and they thought, and what were the relative elements of art and inclusive art and what should happen in the roundabouts. And that's how the art plan came to be and was adopted as a policy plan.
Then we should be very intentional about those roundabouts and what should be in each one of those areas and the potential for future roundabouts in the city, just to make sure that it's not all the same theme by any stretch.
Absolutely. So Deer Heights, which is on the corporate boundary with the city of Spokane, there will be roundabouts at Lyons this year, which is being built by the Kalispell tribe. There'll be a roundabout built next year at Garfield and US2. There would be roundabouts at Lawson and Lundstrom, timing to be determined based on funding availability. There will be a roundabout this year at Craig and US2 built by the Spokane tribe. And there is, of course, the roundabout in front of the Spokane Casino, and then they're building another roundabout that will be in front of the Spoko Fuel.
Okay.
The Spokane tribe is building, so there will be 8 roundabouts.
So as we're going west, there's already a roundabout at the casino. There'd be one before that? Or,
Yes, there would be one
at the
before
Craig
it,
Road.
one after it.
okay, I didn't realize, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, and those are all opportunities for our commission to?
There would be opportunities in the ones that the city is developing.
Because that would be,
because the other ones are being developed by the tribes, and so we can
Okay.
encourage
yeah.
them to include art. Ultimately, they will be in the public right of way. So when I say encourage, is that if they had not included art as part of the original concept, So for example, the one in front of the Spokane tribe, they originally were gonna put a piece of art there, and now they've opted to put the art on their property instead of within the roundabout.
Mhm,
So there could be opportunities, but we also would have to start looking at funding
mhm.
Right.
for those opportunities as well, because they were not
Right.
included in the design. So, with that, clear and concise, plan of action for the downtown for art. This gave a good primer, I think, with the plan with community engagement envisioned for the area. So
Yep.
theme, it talked about some forms of art, and from there, really kind of how do you want to gel this down into a statement of intent or purpose, perhaps, for downtown art, and then from there,
Okay,
help
this is great.
with materials to guide
Mhm.
future submittals.
So is there a schematic of like all the different themes along US 2? Was there anything in the public art plan
In the public art
to
plan,
identify those areas?
it does. So
Okay.
these were just excerpts. So it talked
Right.
about in transition areas that the theme should be glacial, plateau, scabland.
Mhm.
And we know from the plan what transition area is because it's accompanied by the US2 corridor plan, which you all have seen, and the downtown plan, and they're defined by block sections
Mhm.
or what's called context areas in the US2 plan. And then when it talks about, can you go back to the rainbow colored?
Working on it here.
The art plan does specifically talk about, here we go.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
They're mapped out by color. So blue in this area is the downtown. The transition area is the purple and the red. So when we look at the art plan, it talks about the transition. And then it talks about roundabout specifically in that plan having Native American heritage themes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it. So roundabout, so right here, it specifically calls out roundabouts adjacent to tribal properties having tribal themes.
Mhm.
And then roundabouts outside of the central business district that are not adjacent would have the Columbia Plateau and kind of scablands, so landscape themes.
So that would be the Garfield US2 roundabout.
Lundstrom and
Lawson
Lawson, yeah,
Would be
would
aviation.
fall on that too. So
would be aviation or the scabland.
they'd be scaffold. Oh, no, because they're adjacent to the downtown
Downtown.
central business district, so they'd be aviation, right?
Mhm.
I think it's kind of cool because if you contextualize it, you're looking at the landscape, but the more dense you get and the closer you get to the central area, it's developing and it's showing, aviation as kind of being the heart of the city. So,
Mhm.
and I think they did a really good job of contextualizing that. So. Yeah. But anyway, I can show you guys here just for if you want to reference the plan.
Yeah.
So here's our website. Under departments, under planning here, we have sub area plans.
Okay.
We got our downtown plan, which has a lot of good stuff in it, by the way. Industrial sub area, our US2 corridor, but then the last one's the public art plan.
Okay.
And you just click on, and it takes you right to it. So if you want to read through it again, it's right there. I emailed it out months ago to you as well, but that's a lot easier to do on the website. So.
That's good laws. Mhm. Okay, thanks.
So, for the agenda today, it was a vision around the downtown area. And so, one opportunity would be to kind of adopt the statement of purpose or intent around art for the downtown. And that would be, think of it as like your guiding star that you're working toward as you consider projects in this area. And that, hopefully can give you some definition. But I'm wondering if it might be helpful to go to the downtown or the art plan, look at the downtown section, because I think there's actually a pretty specific paragraph in there.
Oh, is there a vision statement already in there?
There is a vision statement in general in the art plan. So, can you go back up? Nope, go down a little bit, sorry. Right where it had the arrows going across. Opportunity areas, keep going down, parks, rec, temporary performance, roundabout, sidewalk and right of way. These are great visuals in that they really give some additional guidance as to what the intent around the art as it would be applied in specific contexts. And so thinking about this is the downtown area, and this is why I said it appeared that sculpture was a very specific intent for part of the downtown area because of the symmetry. And of course, the roundabouts that bookend it being part of that theme. They keep going down, please. And then these are some additional images and explanation around the purpose. So can you go back up one? So the purpose of art is connecting, placemaking, creating identity, collaboration, celebrating heritage and culture, and sustainability. Those are in art plan, specific to art plan. These are the themes that we're working toward in art. So connectivity, and so it's specific to US2, and it's encouraging art within the right of way, which we've talked a little bit about before as opportunities, and that's where the north-south connection language relates to this. Placemaking is where you saw the small town character and kind of the rainbow theme, because we hear that consistently from community members. If you can go down a little bit further. There it is. So this is the table that I was talking about. There we go, right there. I think it's the paragraph. A little bit too far, up a little bit. People, you can see it right there. Oops, stop.
This is
Distinct
the
characters.
cross culture right here.
Yeah. Goes on spaces closer to the central business district would draw inspiration from influence of aviation and the notion of flight, perhaps incorporating elements. Public direct spaces directly to the east and west ends of town whenever referred to the natural landscape region. So that's the outer area. But there was one more that was more specific to the aviation.
This is just the action. So
Okay, well, thank you. There was one more
yeah.
specific sentence.
Yeah, it just seems to me that we have this plan
Mhm.
that really our vision is that we adhere to the
Mhm.
examples and
Mhm.
the items in this plan
Mhm.
moving forward. But I think we can call out all those things like sustainability and all those,
Mhm.
the bullets that you
Mhm.
showed us just a minute ago.
Mhm.
So, but as far as our vision statement, did you say that we had that?
So what we were talking about is the outcome would be to have a definitive direction or statement about what your intent is for the downtown. So one place to
Right.
be would be to have a vision statement for art in the downtown.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, those.
Connectivity, placemaking,
Yeah.
identity, collab.
The following list of guiding principles as a touchstone for strategies, providing a philosophical foundation for Airway Heights public art. They don't limit aesthetics or creativity, but ensure a cohesive vision that should be applied to the corridor and say connectivity, placemaking, identity, collaboration, heritage, culture, and sustainability.
Yeah, so the commission should select artwork that guides by the following, and then we should just list those
Okay.
and follow the plan that's in existence already with the approval of city council.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be really crazy,
Mhm.
hard and difficult.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
pretty definitive. Plus, there's a lot of images that go with that to describe what that means.
Yeah, this plan really does help us to guide us where if we have money coming in and we have a certain area of town, then we know what we need to put there or how we need to solicit for those artists.
Mhm. Okay. Do you want to try typing that out?
In a statement that's not this here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do this. Everybody see all my clicks? Great, I love that. We just want to turn this into a sentence, basically.
Yeah,
Do you want me to take a whack at it?
yeah, like that cohesive, like the cohesive vision needs to stay. The principles do not limit, so that part should stay. I don't think we need US2 because we kind of all know that that's part of the plan. And we don't want to limit aesthetics or creativity. Yeah. And then city at large. Where it says US2 corridor as well as the city at large, we'll just say the city of Airway Heights or city at large. We don't have to call out US2.
I think one of the things that might be worth consideration also is where we're going, because we talk about connectivity, placemaking, identity, collaboration, heritage and culture, but as I interact with the community, I realize that it's in transition and it is growing and it is changing. And so what does that look like in the future? Perhaps we should.
Yeah, but does it affect any of those?
Well, I
That-
guess
the
I'm
list of bullets?
looking at it from the standpoint as a presentation as to what we're selling. What are we selling? We're selling Airway Heights in the future. We're not necessarily selling
Perspective.
Airway Heights in the past.
But we're
So-
following a plan.
Well, no, I know, I'm not
Severely
even
made
talking
us
about,
perspective.
I'm just talking about ideas for what we're going back to the idea of a theme and what,
But they're all laid out here. The themes are all laid out for us. Tribal, small town feel, aviation, heritage and culture. Right?
right, and all of those things are definitely a part of it. But I definitely like to consider what Airway Heights looks like in the future.
But
That's part of
I
that.
think that that's beyond the scope of what we do as a committee. I mean,
Why
a
is that?
commission. Because that's really the overall plan for the city, isn't it? The strategic plan?
Yeah, you're right. The plan identifies that that these are contextually elements that we want to bring
Right.
forth and highlight as part of public art for the downtown. And so they draw upon both historical and contemporary themes. So when we think about aviation, trying to bridge the two
Yeah.
conversations, aviation isn't limited to the biplanes. We just happen to have shown images, historical images of the several different airfields in our area.
And that's current day too.
It's current day, and so one of the posters shows one of the posters that Fairchild does for their air show. Currently, they do one every year as a theme, like Bloomsday does. So that would be helping to try and kind of bridge this conversation. That is the future as well of Airway Heights is an aviation hub. And when we look at the industrial sub-area plan, which is also available on this website, one of the main themes of our future industry that we're seeking is aviation supporting. The city sees that in the future as an economic driver in a workforce development element moving forward. That will always be a strong component economically for us as well. Other ways to bridge, can you go just real quick, go back to the themes, the environment that's listed, and it's the multicolored one that we're looking at.
Oh,
That was on the PowerPoint where it's on this presentation, it's the rainbow one.
There's somewhere, but it's easier.
When we think about environment, trying to bridge the language that's there from the future to the past is, even though it talks about native vegetation, so we've got grasses, we've got open fields, we've got some native plants. Ponderosa, it talks about the scab lands and the West Plains, ponding areas. Those are probably going to remain in the future, or they might actually be at risk. And so when we think about art, think about climate change.
Well, drought tolerance, because it's going to happen here too.
Yep, exactly. We were
water's
just talking
gonna be
about that
scarce.
earlier is how much the
Yeah.
weather is changing as a result of that.
Right.
But as a backdrop to art, considering this theme of drought tolerant or the type of environment we are, that's going into the future. That's a physical, unchangeable element when we think about a theme moving forward in art. So I think there is absolutely a space in envisioning the future of the city with it having to do with art, but I guess I would say these are not exclusively saying that they're past. Some of them, they could be depicted as past. For example, there's an old farm on US 2 on the south side with an old water tower. That's not going to be there forever, but to me, it's one of the most memorable vistas within the city. It's something that we may choose to remember in some way through art, but it doesn't take away from other elements of the small town character as we think and move forward with the community. Small town character, in the way we've heard it in narratives from the community, is local businesses, smaller storefronts, inviting people to get off of US 2 and visit the residential areas, visit the city parks. To them, it's the experience of the small town character.
That one way in and out.
That
too.
Yeah, people at one of the open houses, one of the people said, I live here, but when I go to US 2, I feel like I'm in a different town. So it's a theme that can be portrayed in art of what the city wants to continue to be or perceives itself to be when we think about these themes. So I would just say
Well, I think these themes represent the identity of Airway Heights. It's a representation of past and present and future. So I think that's where the themes, that's why it's important for all these individual areas, because all these areas are representation of Airway Heights.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too. I mean, even though they've just happened to use probably a Microsoft Word, graphic box, but I think it's really interesting that they use gradients of color to represent that, because they're all part of the context of color, but they're still connected.
Yeah.
Through the common thread of being Airway Heights.
Just because you have small town character doesn't mean that you're a small town necessarily. It can be, you know, there's a city outside of Phoenix, the Chandler, Arizona, that every year holds an ostrich festival. And it's like a huge big deal. And they were a tiny little town, didn't have much of a central business district. Now they've totally reworked the whole downtown area. It's still has a small town feel because it has all those kind of like US2, where you just can walk from shop to shop, up and down the street kind of thing. So it still feels like a small town, even though it's not a small town by any stretch anymore.
Right, right. So I think it's an important thing that Lisa had talked about, which was, you know, as part of this theme, and I think Tina just supported in her comments is these themes are future, present, and past. They're not just
Well, and I see this area as such a dynamic. I think that we're kind of, if anything, we can be an example of what that transition looks like, because, you know, there's that history that is part of this community and has been part of this community for a long time, but there are a lot of people that are coming into this town and into this area that have no clue about what that history looks like, and it's not relevant to them. So how do we make this area relevant to those folks coming in? You know, what does that look like? Are they really interested in a small town feel? Or are they more interested in making sure that when they punch up on Instacart, whatever, they get their, you know, they can go and get their stuff delivered from Walmart because it's close, because we've got all this infrastructure in place. And that's where I feel like you guys are doing such a tremendous job in meeting some of the challenges of that growth. It's huge. It's gigantic. I can't imagine what you're going through right now. So as an advisory side, I feel like we need to be more forward thinking. We can't necessarily go, okay, well, the Fairchild Air Force Base is always going to be here, or Airway Heights is always going to look like this with these little storefronts. Things are changing as we speak. And what the highway looks like once things get shifted and what that actually fleshes out like is going to look very different to you and me than perhaps somebody coming in from Oregon or somebody coming in from the west side. So I guess I'm trying to think more forward, like, okay, so maybe Airway Heights and the past isn't relevant as it was to us. It isn't as relevant to them. I've been here for going on 40 years now. So Airway Heights has a part of my history as well, but there are a lot of people coming in who've only been here for 2 or 3 years who actually don't have that kind of connection. So what kind of this whole connectivity thing really helps. I think this discussion has been very helpful because it gives me as an advisory position to say, well, I'm not going to get locked in the past. I've done that before, right? Where I'm just very nostalgic and I really appreciate all the things that have gone into making this community the way it is. But I really don't want to get locked into the point that I'm not willing to look forward and see, you know what, there's a whole bunch of Marshallese that go and play in that park every night and they barbecue and they enjoy their family. And then there's a whole nother community of Koreans. There's a whole nother community of Black people that have been here. There's a whole community of people that are just moving in from outside that have no clue about any of this. So what does that look like? How do we make that transition and present ourselves in a way that, as we say, makes people want to stop and go, hey, you know, maybe I'd like to hang out here. Maybe I'd like to have a cup of coffee and have some barbecue ribs and find out what this community is really about. Right now, it's just like, you know, drive through and pass on and kind of wave.
No, I don't think that's at all how it is. I think that this plan looks at and identifies why people came to Airway Heights. 40 years ago, that's 40 years ago. But people who currently move here because they had the choice to move here. They make up their own mind. I think that it's only important to show where we are currently and where we were, all of that, to make everybody fit in, not just keep a historical tone to all this.
Forgive my typing. It's a little bit different keyboard.
Yes, it's important to, you know, stay true to the identity of Airway Heights and what Airway Heights is. I respect, you know, people coming and moving here, although I don't want to compromise the identity of our area.
What would you describe that? How would you describe that?
just as it is listed here on, you know, the plan. You know, we want to represent all those areas. We don't want to conform to people that aren't from this area. We want to, you know, show pride in what everybody has to represent who are originally from here, that live here. Again, we're making plans to represent the identity of who our residents are here in Airway Heights.
What do you think?
I think the plan kind of lays it out, keeps it open with options to incorporate different eras, so to speak. But the plan, as it's in there, seems pretty straightforward, easy to follow, and a great guideline for us. So
I'm just adding some words as everybody's speaking.
Mhm.
That's why. There you go.
Okay. Or we give everybody a chance to read that. So the yellow highlighted were the things you wanted to keep out of kind of the purpose statement, out of the art plan. The preamble I put together out of some comments from the group, and then just kind of filled in a couple of words just to make it flow better, and then strike out the pieces that didn't make sense or that people didn't want to keep.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I don't know why the
Yeah.
screen up there is so small. Like I've been trying to fix it, but
And then we should have some sort of sentence about the existing plan and using that as guidance
Okay.
for execution, maybe? Of art selection, artwork selection.
Such art aim to guide the following. Let me just do this down here. Utilizing
The existing
existing
public art.
art plan as
Guidance.
guidance and directional
Reference or orientation, yeah, orientation.
Yeah. For executing and selecting future artwork.
Which is kind of redundant since we're doing that anyway.
Where is it redundant? I don't see
No,
it.
no, I'm just saying we're doing that anyway. I'm not sure exactly. Are we reinventing the wheel here?
Okay, any other feedback?
So let's just read it out.
Do you want me to read it out loud? I really don't read to people
It's okay.
because I myself don't like it, but sometimes when it's said out loud, it sounds differently than it does in your head.
Heather, you did a really good job at like putting in the words that were missing there. So I mean,
Okay.
it's perfect, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay, stay true to the identity of Airway Heights now and in the future. These strategies serve as a touchstone for the strategy.
Touchstone.
Stay true to the identity. These strategies serve as a touchstone to stay.
Oops. My keyboard doesn't have this. Okay, downtown vision statement. Stay true to the identity of Airway Heights now and in the future. These strategies serve as a touchstone, providing a philosophical foundation for Airway Heights public arts. These principles do not limit aesthetics or creativity, but ensure a cohesive vision of the city at large. While each individual site may be unique, the overall community vision and characteristics will include selections of artwork that aim to guide the following, blah, blah, blah. Utilizing the existing Airway Heights public art plan as the guidance and directional orientation for executing and selecting future artworks. Probably should put a word in front of utilizing. Put execution of art will utilize the existing public arts plan as the guidance of directional, the guidance and directional orientation for executing and selecting future artworks. Execution of art will utilize the existing plan as guidance and direction for executing. Oh, I already have execution.
Yeah, so take out for executing, just directional orientation and selecting. There you go.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
You should get capital.
City at large?
Is it referencing a specific city? The city?
I'm just gonna put it on your desktop,
That's
just so it doesn't go anywhere.
all good.
How about execution of art? This or the execution of art will utilize the existing.
So walking in, discussing a new project, using a statement like this as your touchstone, how does that guide you as a commission?
Precisely. Well, I think it goes back to what Tina was saying about identity as well. And again, kind of back to what I was saying in terms of identity and how that transitions into the future and what that looks like as we go forward. Because all of this, even the revitalization project, you're not looking at it as a Band-Aid for right now. You're looking at it to future growth as well. You're looking to future utilization. You're not looking to just what we're going to do for the next 2 years. You're looking hopefully to the next 10 years or even beyond. And of course, things change as we go. So I'm hoping that, we can have that kind of a forward thinking vision as well. That's the whole thing I'm concerned about, is that we're not getting locked in. And I speak from experience, because I think that can be a pitfall. I've worked for clients who in the past kind of get locked into the history of what they've done. And it limits you in terms of what kind of spin or what kind of gloss you want to put on the future projects, if you will, because we're not dealing now with folks that have been around here. We're talking about a generation that is passing on. You know, folks, farmers have in their 50s and 60s. I speak as one of those. And so all the ground around here is changing. The way it's being utilized is changing. The way that people that are moving in view the way that this area is changing. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. How can we be just a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of what that looks like and what that appeal looks like to the people coming into it? Because they may not really relate to the fact that Fairchild's been here forever, or that, you know, our aviation has been such a huge part of our history. They just being really upset that planes are flying over and waking up their kids in the middle of the night. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of, is how can we be just, you know, step outside our own comfort zone and our own ways of looking at things, and just be a little bit more ahead of it in terms of
So how does that relate to
vision.
the plan?
Well, I think the plan leaves open a lot of good possibilities for that.
Like how would we execute something that you're talking about based on the plan, public art plan?
Well, that's exactly what we're here for.
Right, so how would we, yeah, I just don't get what. I mean, we're not really a strategic commission. We're just here to give input and manage the execution of selecting artists. And I just feel like this is a strategic conversation that really is city council and the planners to have.
Well, maybe to help bridge this is, I hear the desire to have a future lens toward art. And I think that's a legitimate question, is are you actually suggesting to change the strategy plan?
Right,
Because the themes have already been identified
right.
in the plan. And so can you provide a description of what that forward thinking would look like in the sense of the vision statement?
Mhm. Well, and again, I think that I think it's such a great springboard. I think the whole thing, again, maintaining a small town character with a commercial business corridor has got to be, you know, you're talking about two different sides of the equation here. So
Well, let me
that's
give it a
when you
little more
solve the
context.
problem.
No, it's not solving the problem. I think maybe, and that's a really good point. Which one is it? Is it? Yep. Where's the PowerPoint?
It is that one, yeah. Or no, I'm sorry, it's the,
That's okay, I'll just go to the colored. In an earlier, here it is right here. It does not, and very interestingly enough, rightfully so, none of the plans consider the city to be monoculture. So when you were asking the question about having themes that it could not be applied in the same location, that's possible, but that's also technically true, because the work that had been done in the previous strategy plans, and this happens to be the US2 corridor plan that was adopted in 2018, recognizes that when you look at Walmart, it is going to be a much more suburban environment. So when we look at a phrase about small town feel, that may not, and the art plan doesn't apply it throughout all the themes. It actually breaks them out by part of the area, just like this map does. So the areas that go out toward that way, when we go out toward Deer Heights and go all the way up to the Hayford Road intersection, and even a little bit beyond that, these context 1 and 2, these areas are considered gateway, or they're considered a suburban landscape. So that area where the Walmart is right here, if you can see my little arrow, they're going to have different parts of that theme of the art that is in the plan. But when we look at And these were the cattails I was talking about, Tina, that are
That's a
over
cool-
at the Kalispell side. I don't know why my mind was messed up about that. When we think about these points here, these are irrespective of time. They're not
Okay.
they're not grounded in the past. When we think of connectivity, that connectivity is how do we traverse the Highway 2 corridor wherever we are at any time between now and the future. And we're talking about the US 2 design. That is exclusively the point of that design is
Okay.
connectivity. When we think, if I were to pull a theme here, because it's dividing our community.
Right.
And that will continue to be a challenge into the future because it's a federal highway.
Mhm.
Placemaking is not something that we think of in the past. It's how we want to create into the future a space with a purpose. And we put elements into that space in order to achieve that purpose. Now we could use a theme like community, but placemaking includes elements where it invites people to stay,
Mhm.
to experience that location and experience it through visual, tactile experiences.
So the Sunset Park of today may not look like the Sunset Park of tomorrow.
It absolutely won't, and that's getting
Yeah.
to a good point when we think about in the future, we may not be looking at large scale parks. Placemaking may in fact become an experience of providing open space and park opportunities in other locations that don't traditionally happen, that become in the future. So for example, have you ever been to a town where you're just walking along and all of a sudden you'll come across a series of outdoor exercise equipment?
Yep.
Or it's specifically senior or disabled focused outside. And what they did is they took an opportunity and they made it into a recreational space, but it also became a way of placemaking and taking an underutilized portion of the right of way as an example, or a path, and making it into an experiential, a tactile opportunity. So I don't think these conversations are mutually exclusive. I think it's just the imagining that goes along with this to think about the opportunity and the application. Yep, you're going to do something because I'm begging you.
No,
And-
I wanted to show.
And some places may have dual usage
Absolutely.
where they may, I'm gonna go back to my Chandler, Arizona example, is that they created a park area, which was basically just some grass with a grandstand, like a stage, where it was very easy for them to just put up a chain link fence and hold festivals
Right.
around the grandstand and around the grassy area. But normally, it's just City Hall, the public library, and, and it's just a wide open space normally.
That's a really good example. So on the US 2 design, we're approaching the next phase, which is called 60%, so a little bit over halfway. Because based on the downtown plan, it identifies that there's a north-south part of the downtown corridor of King Street. So we're designing a pedestrian space in King Street. It'll still allow for travel with cars. It'll still allow parking to those side businesses, but the treatment of the space will be colored differently. It's going to have a center island planter and it's going to have bollards. And so the idea is that's going to become a place. It's going to be its own distinct space as part of the downtown. Whereas today, you wouldn't be able to distinguish it from any other street going north on US 2 because they're all leading to the same place. Well, this happens to lead eventually to the school location. I've been on that.
It's the highway. Yeah. It's the perfect example of.
Oh, in
That-
Georgia?
No, this is
it's
in
in
Manhattan.
It's in New York.
Oh, they have something very similar in Georgia.
This is an abandoned trail line in Manhattan. and which goes on for several miles, and they recreated it as a park. And
Walking track.
Yep.
When you go to places like Israel, for instance, green spaces are really important to them. And so you'll see a lot of places where, in fact, even on rooftops, where they've reclaimed and used areas for even planted deciduous and coniferous trees. It's like, how the heck do they grow those in, places with no depth of soil? But apparently they do. Green spaces are really important. And that's one of the things too, when I'm thinking about the whole future aspect, because I can see that Airway Heights could definitely lend its space to more of that, I guess, no vehicles, no, combustible materials, whatever, just bicycles and pedestrians and that type of thing, just walking. And I can see that right now we're very much based on getting around by car, but down the road, I can see that this area would lend itself very well to that.
I don't know why it's showing images.
Try a refresh. I don't, yeah, there's something going on. It's the Wi-Fi. There's something.
Yeah, exactly. So what will happen is eventually in the future, spaces are going to be repurposed, right?
Yeah, that would be.
Buildings will be repurposed. Yeah, it's not showing me.
Let's switch to, God, we're having some fun technology stuff today. Can you stop sharing on there?
I'm gonna stop sharing, Tina, while we fix the technical issues. Just again, I don't think that the statement that you're working on is exclusive to the past. I think it allows for the opportunity to think of application in the future. It's essentially adopting the themes that are in the art plan moving forward as your touchstone when you think
Right.
about projects.
Yeah. That's the how of it right there.
Oh, that's-
Not sure how you did that, but
There's something going on with the Wi-Fi, and this is the wired connection.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Why?
weird. I don't know.
So just to image this up there, this is the 30% design, but in the 60% design, King Street is going to be much more of a pedestrian portion of a corridor with a significant crossing across US 2, getting in that connectivity element. And then, thinking about how the space along here eventually gets used, because that'll be a 10-foot shared use path on both the north side and the south side, separated on both sides by green space in one shape or another, whether it's flowers and grass, or just grass and trees, or however that design in the future is included. And so there's going to be some opportunities. This space right down here, located close to the roundabout, the space on the south side, we're looking close to the lunchroom, because my mouse is not showing. So the green space on the right hand side of the lunchroom roundabout, you see some big blocks. There you go, one in the south, one in the north. And then over on the south side, there's going to be some opportunities in those areas when we think about application of a future art, sculpture, signage, some kind of feature that could be there in the future. Okay. Can you go back to the Word document?
For the vision,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's going to be there, so you'll have to reshare. We're having fun today. I got it.
There we go. Okay.
All right.
So we have a few minutes left of the meeting today. So I just want to kind of dial in and see if this is close, or if there's additional language or changes to this.
I'm good.
I think it
It's
works
pretty good.
great, yeah.
Tina? Okay. Perfect.
He's muted.
All right. So with this, I would suggest a vote of the group.
Okay.
And then we'll put it into the into the binder, and then we'll include that when Zach resends you the link for these plans too, so you have them. Okay.
All right. So do we have a motion to approve the downtown vision statement as revised?
I motion.
I second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the downtown vision statement as revised? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great work, everybody. We'll send those links to you. If we have a couple of minutes, we do have an update for the mural project. If that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So all the sites have been narrowed down. We did a drive-through about 2 meetings ago, right? So we have the final list of invite opportunities where the letter's been drafted. Zach drafted the invite letter to the property owners, asking them to partner or participate with the city on a mural opportunity. And here's our short list of locations. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You're sharing just the word screen. You need to share the,
Okay.
or I can do it if you want. I have it all up.
No, it's okay. We have about 7 businesses that will send a solicitations letter out to based on our drive-through along there. Billy's Diner, SC Baines, the beauty school. Looks like we've got a couple of different properties. They're either addressed strictly off of 14th, which are through the core area on the south, or on the north side.
Cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Also, there was a little bit of additional work put together that Zach did. So he's got the information for a solicitation letter for artists, which he can put into the packet for the group. And he did a little bit of research on mural projects, today's costs. And so my last experience was about $3,000 to $4,000. It sounds like those costs have gone up to about $5,000 for a mural project. And I don't think it was certain whether that $5,000 did include the artist stipend or not.
No, we'll have to clarify that, but we're looking at the floor would be $5,000. It's consistent with the projects that have recently been done throughout the state, so.
So I didn't know if there was any strong feeling about trying to keep the artist stipend within that 5,000 or add something on top of it. Because remember, we had about $13,000 remaining of the downtown revitalization fund.
What is the benchmarking on what an artist stipend would be?
For a $5,000 project, I believe the stipend was about 1,500. And then it just kind of goes up to there. I mean, I found a $10,000 project that had like a $4,000 stipend on it. So it was just inconsistent. It wasn't like a straight percentage or anything like that. It just seemed to be all over the place.
Okay.
But my recommendation is we go with like a $5,000 budget. We go with like a $1,500 seems pretty okay.
That's what I think too.
And based on the spaces we're proposing, it's not going to be like a huge mural or anything.
No.
Like
Yeah, that was my questions. Does that depend on the size of the mural?
Yeah, like the ones we looked at, when we're talking about the ones in Spokane, they were like the whole side of the building. Those were like $10,000.
Okay, yeah.
So the $5,000 ones were more in line with what we're proposing.
Right.
So what we just need to talk about is updating the project description. So early on, the group had been talking about community as a focus. And we've just understood more from the downtown art plan, the aviation as a theme in the downtown area. And so I think you could probably add that element of community to aviation or stick with just aviation, but we kind of wanted to have a couple of minutes to kind of noodle what you're thinking that you wanted to give for guidance for the artist, because we can take excerpts directly out of the downtown plan, but I think it's the visuals that we looked at today, you know, a wide range from now into the future. And we are going to specifically prohibit AI created images.
It's already in the document.
For our discussion. So no more Native Americans on a winged buffalo. I'm sorry.
It was like a half buffalo, half plane.
It was half buffalo, half plane. It was very weird.
It was, yeah.
It was very weird. For theme moving forward. So thoughts from the group?
I mean, I think aviation definitely can fit into it, but it doesn't have to be the entirety of the theme. But it has been a big part of Airway Heights, so I think it's probably good to incorporate it on some level, but trying to include something like an aspect of connectivity.
Yeah, there might be also a way to connect it based on what sort of businesses want to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can certainly insert the language from the vision too, which is the themes that we just adopted as a vision statement and to put in there. And that the downtown had an aviation theme to it.
I really hate to limit ourselves, though. Honestly, I mean, aviation is such a go-to thing, and it's always good to push it a little bit farther, push it beyond what the first solution
Well,
might be.
Billy's Diner is farm to table, and so they use all local growers. So I envision that something that might be cool for them is if they had a plane flying over a farm or something like that as a mural on their building, because then it gives them more impetus to want to participate, and it kind of gets with their theme as well as still meets the theme of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and if it was, one of the auto oriented, maybe
Yeah.
it's similar to that first picture where it's an airfield,
Right, Or
where people
mechanics.
are out watching.
yeah, or
for the
mechanics,
day. Mhm.
working on a plane or something.
So Zach, the stuff that you're showing now, like that building, that would be on the side of that
Yeah.
particular,
So this is one of the,
it'd be on the corner.
who we're gonna reach out to, assuming
Okay,
this
yeah.
fall is probably what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And then the other one I just went to, which is the larger strip mall right here.
So while he's driving, we have plenty of time to execute this project this year, get it done and get it through. Because all we need is to finalize the solicitation, get the property finished, and it can be painted anytime between now and the end of summer. So we're basically looking at May, June, July, August, even to September, we have 5 months to execute a mural project.
Are there any east facing walls? So as you're driving west, you'd be,
There was the car wash.
Yeah.
oh, okay, right. That's actually, that's probably a good spot too, because it's so
So
visible.
that's one of them.
With,
Yeah,
and it's
so
already,
this wall here.
oh,
is
that's a
one
great
that
wall
look
too.
at.
Yeah, that's a really good wall.
This wall on this side of this,
I like, yeah, that's even better, this one.
also this guy here.
Council and building, is there a council there? Something like that?
So what we can do then is we'll update based on your comments today, the project description and the vision statement that you adopted. We'll get that out to the group to take a look at. We'll go ahead in the meantime as we'll send the solicitation letter out to the businesses, talk to the businesses and get one or more of them to volunteer. If we should get more than one entity, is there any preference of which of these that you'd like to see the mural on?
I think we have to wait to see who is interested.
Well, I'm saying if there was more than one. If there's only one,
Right, but if there's multitude of them, then I think that would be the point where we would make a selection.
Yeah, I really like, when people are coming and heading west, that there's a nice big, and that wall space too would just really be helpful for, visibility as well.
Yeah, the most visible.
Yeah.
would be what I was looking towards.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
I get that. They use that for their advertising, so.
Yeah, this Billy Diners
Mhm.
spaces would be really nice, right?
Well, you could do it on either side too. It would either be east or western facing, because they have a whole another side on the other side too.
Yeah, and a couple
Yeah,
of
maybe
these,
you could get a 2-for-1, right? You could.
None of these are owned, there are several properties along this border that are owned by the same property owner, but the ones we're looking at there doesn't happen to be one.
Well, I mean, on both sides of Billy's Diner, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll go ahead and do the solicitation for site. If we get more than one per direction, then we can come back to the group to see if there's a preference. But if there's only one per direction or only one, then we'll just go with what we get. Okay, and we'll
That's
update.
the letter that you're.
yeah, so I just wanted to check the date, sorry. So on our draft, we're asking them to reach out by May 1st, so we can get back to you guys next month if we do get responses.
Okay.
I do want to talk about, asking city council to authorize a dollar amount. Do we need that prior? I mean, I don't think we don't need it immediately, but
We don't need it immediately, no. No, not more.
until we figure it out a little bit better.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, okay, I know we don't need it immediately, but would that be helpful if anybody's going to inquire to see if they're going to submit anything? Or have interested in submitting?
Oh, no, this is just for finding a volunteer property owner. What Zach is asking is to get the authorization to expend the dollars for the project.
Okay,
So we'd want to have it before we send the call to mural out, so, because we want to have the number on the call.
Mhm.
but we don't wanna
right,
have that-
right.
Right now, it sounds though that we're looking at an operating budget of $5,000 for the mural and $1,500 for the.
I'd say that's a good just hold number until we find any reason to change it, so.
I mean, I think that's enough to go forward
Mhm.
to council and get authorization.
Okay. I mean, I can get that on the
Okay.
docket, get that ball rolling, so.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna hit the road running, get this rolling, and then we can bring back if there's more than one each direction, final language for the call from muralists. Hopefully we'll know by the end of the month if there's a property owner obviously interested, and then we'll be ready to pull the trigger and get this out, bring back hopefully some submissions. We had obviously a robust number last time.
Mhm.
And get the project executed and out the door. Okay,
And the call, we talked about this already, but the call is going to be a little bit different from a geographic standpoint. It's going to be easier in Washington, and it's by county. So I was going to make a map.
I don't think you need to do a map, you just say which counties.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay,
So it's on the call here, but yeah, they're all listed here. So it's a little different. The map matters more when you use census blocks because nobody knows where those are, but you know what county you're
Yeah.
in. So it's there, but just so we're clear on that.
With the call to property owners, will they be able to include like the size of the wall that the mural will go on? So just in case it would come to a point where we would have to choose one.
I think what we would do is once they said yes, we would then go out and probably take a tape measure.
yeah,
and
measure.
Okay.
Measure it.
Yeah.
The less that we put on somebody to be involved,
Yeah.
makes it
Yeah.
easier to say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do not respond unless you can give us the exact. Okay.
Just, yeah.
All right, well, I think that wraps up the entire update on the mural project.
Sounds good. And I think that was the only thing, unless, does anybody have any commissioner reports? Or anything they'd like to discuss? Hearing none, any staff reports?
We'll be doing more open houses on the downtown plan in May and in June, or not the downtown plan, excuse me, the US 2 corridor plan in May and June. So we'll send out invites for those events. The next ones, though, for the area are all going to be what are called pop-up. So they're going to be events where we go where people are at. So one of them is going to be at the first garden open market over at the hub.
The Airway Heights Summer Market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is coming up this month. So there'll be a pop-up there with information They're gonna go do a pop-up over in front of Yokes on the 22nd of April, and then they're gonna be going to an event for Latino Mexicanos, Spokane.
Latinos in Spokane.
It's not that group. It's
Oh, it's a
actually,
different
yeah, it's a group that's Mexicanos Latinos.
Oh,
And it's actually career fair day
oh, okay.
for people that are graduating. So it's kind of catching parents and kids at the same time. So there'll be pop-up events, but we'll have the 60% design up on the website on that project page for it. So we'll have more, there'll be 3 more pop-ups in addition to those during that time. And then we'll get a June event planned where we'll have the final design for both of those, and we'll share them with you. And then we can talk a little bit about the Garfield US2 roundabout moving forward as well.
Okay.
I don't have any.
All right, sounds good. Agenda shows the next meeting is May 13th, still at 2 o'clock.
Mhm.
And looks like we can call this meeting adjourned at 3:31.
Yay.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.